Should we start?
Yeah.
Okay. And since I'm recording it, if you're watching this later, then you're watching it later. Okay. Well, I'm Heyo Kimoto. I am the Director of Academic Technologies for Information Technology Services Division of the system, and I was one of the people that was tasked to kind of help this technical structure, putting it together, as well as rolling it out. It actually started from conversations with the CACAOs, the Council of Chief Academic Affairs Officers, and how we need to kind of look at getting feedback from our students. And so starting this fall, the requirement is that all courses that are in Banner will have to have a course evaluation system. And so in the past, how many of you have ever used it in the past?
Which one?
The eCafe. Okay, so it almost looks exactly like that with a different face and a few different functionalities. So we actually completed our faculty instructor manual, and so I mailed it out to Leanne and Adam, who are your campus coordinators, administrative coordinators for this. So hopefully they'll post it on their website and send it out. Oh, Helen from Kapiolani. Oh wait, we're taping this. You'll have to edit this off, or whatever. Anyway, so if you go to our the old eCafe site, it has a very similar look as eCafe, but now this is course evaluation system. So it's really just www.hawaii.edu/CES. And we realized it was case sensitive. So the first time I typed it in as capital CES, and it said no such site. I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so this is what it is. And so I wanted to start at this partly because this is what everybody would see when they go to the website. And I don't know what it is. I better not press any of these other buttons in case. So right now, when it says staff, that's Leanne and Adam who can go in and put in if there were campus questions, or if, let's say, the campus decided, and the campus has decided at this point that there's no sharing. But then faculty can go in on October 29th and November 15th, and I'll show you some screenshots of what it's going to look like when you get there, and then students would do their evaluations between November 19th and December 6th before finals begin. And then results will be released to you as of December 20th, which is the day after grades roll, and then you can publish those results starting January 1 if you want, partly because you might want to do some cleanup, because one of the things we tell faculty is sometimes students might write inappropriate things on the evaluation, so you might want to clean it up before you publish it out to the website. So just as an example, so here I've actually used Manoa as an example, but when you logged in, it'll say University of Hawaii at Leeward Community College, and then the organization means the campus, the entire system. And so right now you have options you can share. It can be everything gets shared, and when we say share, it means it goes from you to your department chair only. It doesn't go anywhere. So sorry, Della doesn't get to see anything because she's vice chancellor. Actually, nobody gets to see except for you and your chair. And one of the things that we will be putting in so I'll just go to a few more screens, that you will know who it's actually going to be shared with. So that's be some of the work that Leanne and Adam will have to do. So for example, let's say in your art department, the chair changes from Leanne to Hay this semester. It will show that it's going to get shared with Hay, not Leanne. And if you see that it's wrong, you can call Leanne and Adam and say, hey, you have the wrong department chair listed here, so because it only goes to the chair. So the options for sharing are everybody shares, nobody shares, only non-tenured shares, or only lecturer shares. And the reason why we put in these structures, and especially lecturers, was that oftentimes in lecturer contracts, they're required to share their evaluation with their department chair to get rehired and renewed. And so they would say, well, can't you just build in a system that'll just automatically go? Because oftentimes they'll say, oh, I forgot to share it. And now my rehiring process is tied up or held up. And so this is something that we put into place. So the campus has to decide, are we sharing all, none, or some combination thereof? And the sharing rule actually has a hierarchy. So if in fact the campus decides we're not going to share anything, then at each of the lower levels you can override that, except if the campus, as a faculty senate, you folks decide we're going to share, everybody's going to share with the department chair, then people underneath the organization, like your divisions or your department, can't override the yes, we're going to share. But if the decision is no, we're not going to share anything, and let's say the music department says we want to share everything, then just the music department can share. So you can change the rules lower down, except for if everybody said, if the campus decides, yes, we're going to share everything, then at the department level, you can't override that in the direction. Do you have a question?
Yes,
Yes.
is that policy written down somewhere? I'm
It's
guessing
in
there.
it's in the, I think, I should have included that, and I'll make sure I send it to Leanne, or maybe you actually have it on your CES site. The memo that initiated this from the president about we're doing it, and then in it we had an attachment about the sharing.
So that, I'll just find that.
Yes, well, I'll make sure you get it. I'll send it to Della and to the CES folks,
Okay, cool, thank you very much.
but we'd have to write this down.
Is it in the update on implementation of CES?
Just look here.
Because what you're saying
Yeah,
is
I think
really
it's there.
great. I mean, that's really good to hear, and I know
Yeah,
that'll
it's in the
make everybody feel better about
Yes.
those things, but it
You
seems like
wanna
a very
see it.
if-then kind of thing
Yes.
that people would want to look at and examine.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's on the website.
Okay,
Can
it
you
is
refer-
on your,
Yeah,
so, okay.
so you
That
can
just
refer.
as it was just said?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, I should have just, so looking at the nursing as an example. So the organization in this sense was, so it could be, the campus is Manoa, so the organization, let's say, had said, we're only going to share everyone that is a non-tenured faculty. But nursing can go in and decide, oh, we're going to share all instructors, or leave it as what it is. So you can always add more going down, but you can't negate going up, if that makes any sense. Once you get in, you'll kind of see what it looks like. So for faculty, when you set up, so the way this is different from eCafe is that now each faculty, when you log in with your UH username and password, you're actually going to set up your own little test bank. So that in the past, you had to pick from those questions that were available. There were 357 questions in eCafe that you could pick from, and they were kind of sorted. And actually, we have a link on the site to all of the course questions in case you really liked a certain question that you wanted to make sure. But in this scenario, you would actually set up your own test bank. So I could go in and say, I can go and actually add a question to my list. So I can then pick a question, add a question, type it in, decide whether I want to be disagree, agree, or whatever the various, and then we have like 20 different answer types. So you can go put it in, and so then you create this list of your test. So this is your own personal test bank question. And the reason why we did it this route also was that oftentimes faculty would say, oh, there's a question in the 357 questions that doesn't answer the question. I want to ask a different question. But because that set was kind of set long before all of us, I think, were faculty members in any campus, that it had to go through a vetting process, and that committee no longer existed. So then it's like this, everybody on every campus want this question and whatever. So we decided we wanted to give individual faculty members more autonomy to be able to add your own questions. So that you could create your question set, and then you could then pick the course for this survey, and I just use an example of land tenure and use because I figured there's nobody in this room. And so then you could then go and pick the questions. Now you also notice, okay, you guys, I'm gonna walk over here to this, your higher organizational questions. And in this scenario, when you log into, let's say, what course do you teach?
Religion.
Religion, okay. religion 150, let's say. Then Leeward has one campus question. How would you rate the overall quality of this course? That question would be in your org questions already set, because every course at Leeward will have that question. And the reason why we have the one question, or in Kapulani's case, might be 20 questions or 10 questions, is that you don't ask another question for the student that's already in the campus question set. Because then the student's gonna think, so let's say the campus question in Leeward's case is, how would you rate the overall quality of the course? And then you don't wanna ask another question that says, how do you rate this course? And the student's gonna go, what? Didn't I just answer this question? So that's kind of where that is. The other thing that we did in this scenario is we reverse ordered the org question, so that what happens is that the Leeward question, how would you rate the overall quality of this course, is the last question the student answers. Because we didn't want the student, if they're taking 5 courses, that's the first question they answer every single of those 5 courses. So your personal questions come first, and then the institution question comes. So let's say, for example, religion is part of arts and humanities, right? So let's say the arts and humanities department said, oh, you know what, for all of our arts and humanities courses, we want to ask these 5 courses.
That's the plan moving forward.
Okay, perfect. So then in the future, you would see your arts and humanities courses, questions, and then your department, or the org question, which is a quality question, and then you could add your own. So that's the way it's kind of structured. And so then again, your faculty's individual questions will be the first ones the student sees. Then comes the what do you call the arts and humanities?
Like division, or like discipline specific.
Discipline questions. And then will be the campus question, the one in this case. You could have more if you guys decide you wanted to have more. Okay? And so then you as faculty can then do a faculty preview, so you can see that all the courses, that the questions and the order that the student will be answering. And then you can actually go at another, oops, sorry, I don't have that screenshot, where you could then decide to reorder the questions. So that you can say, I don't want question number 3 as 3, I want that to be number 1. So then you could just move it up and down the order of your own faculty question. Leanne, if the faculty senate decided or your divisions decided that you want these certain questions, let's say in the arts and humanities, we want these 5 questions, and you can decide at that level, Leanne, we want you to reorder it like this. But that's where the administrator comes in, but you have total control of your own. This is an old screenshot, so this one is going to be not here, this question, in the sense that we're no longer asking students. So in the past in eCafe, if you ever used eCafe, it asked students, the class level, whether they're freshman, sophomore, or whatever, and it asked for gender. We're no longer asking those 2 questions. And ethnicity, because we're just getting it in the background, so that when you get your results back, it'll say that of your 25, let's do 20 so I can do my math easier. Of your 20 students, 10 were freshmen, 5 were sophomores, and 5 should actually have junior standing because they have 65 credits or something to that effect. And it'll say of your students, so many were of male and female, and then so many were of these various ethnicities as it's reflected in Banner. And the reason why we went to that route instead of having the students self-disclose was because that way then we can actually use the CES for small enrolled courses. Because if you, let's say, had a class of 3 and you had 2 females and 1 male, you wouldn't be able to tie each of the evaluations to the male, or these 2 go with the female, because it's just an aggregate number. And they'll say, of your class of 3, 2 were Hawaiian and 1 was Asian American. So then you can't tie that specific evaluation to that specific student. So then you can, so then there's the student view. So you, as I said, we wanted to provide this so that you could reorder and change things. So when the student goes in, this is what they would see, that they would be, here's your courses that you're signed up for, and you can do the survey now, or you can opt out of the survey. Now, for the faculty then, during the evaluation period, which is during the last several weeks of the semester, then when you go in, you could see that, for example, in your, let's say you're teaching Architecture 272, that there are 59 students enrolled and 53 have completed and 0 have opted out. So you can get a sense of how things are going. Now, one of the things I should say is that because people were always concerned about the response rates, that we have made this totally mobile friendly so that you could say to your class, next Wednesday during class, I'm going to end class 15 minutes early so that you can make sure you bring your phone, your laptop, your iPad, or I think you even have checkout cards here at Leeward that you could check it out and then pass it out to all the students and then say, I'm gonna leave and I want you to log in and do the evaluation, and when you're done, feel free to leave. Only because that way then, it kind of emulates the old paper evaluations where you would just pass it out and say, okay, turn it in, collect it, off it goes.
Can you
Yes.
go back 2 slides? I just wanted to make sure, so that second one, please note if, well, it's been elective required, I guess. Anyway, is that still there?
No.
Oh, that's not there either.
So, yeah.
I'll just check it.
I don't think we've ever had male, female, gender, or status, or elective required on any of our cafes.
Okay, so, sorry, so this is an old one, so these two are not part of the, I should have,
Maybe from Manoa, they have that?
could be.
Yeah, I don't think.
Oh, okay, yeah, oh, yes, you're right, Manoa did use it.
Yeah, okay. Just check.
But anyway, it'll be there, so you'll get that result back, if you want it back. You could tell me, unprogram it out, but it might be useful, yeah.
When we did the beaker surveys, the instructor had to step out of it. Do we still have to do that?
I think you would be whatever your campus decisions are. I mean, I know that in all my previous experiences, when I was teaching class, I'd say, okay, I'm leaving 15 minutes early and somebody will be outside, usually not me, to just stick it in this envelope and drop it off in the office or something to that effect. But you can decide however you want. I think it would be, whatever it fits for the culture of Leeward. And you as individual faculty can decide whether you want to do it in class. You can do it, the students will be sent an email saying, course evaluation systems are available beginning today. You have until this time to finish and, continue. And then every week we send a reminder. So if I haven't finished my evaluations, it'll say, hey, or it won't say hey, it'll say, dear student, you have not, our records show that you have not completed all your course evaluations. Here's the link, please go complete it.
And we're able to pivot on many of or customize on many of the levels of the survey, right?
Meaning,
I think you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's
It's very
what I mean.
broad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could have a set of questions just for everybody teaching. Could you do it by course, accounting 201, everybody teaching, or is it just by the discipline?
so right now we have it structured so that it's really faculty centric. We will be rolling out every semester this question bank so that, let's say all the accounting faculty said we want to ask these questions. So then by, subjects, we can have subject questions so that you can then have them there. Or to actually, the other way we were looking at it is we can do 2 things. We could say let me give writing intensive as an example. So as a campus, we all have writing intensive courses. So we might say for all our writing intensive courses, so if it has a WI in the CRN structure, when you go into, when you come to this page, then in this section of your questions, it will already have populated, let's say, the 2 WI questions. Now, It's not quite there yet. Because one of the things, and that's part of the reason why I'm here to talk to you, so that do we want to structure it so that it's at the org level? So every course has to have these 2 questions. Or do we say, is there, let's say, for all accounting courses, do we want a certain set of questions? So that then you could not have it in the org questions, but in your own questions bank, so that we have it available, so that we say, if you're teaching an accounting 100 level course, add these set of questions into your question set. We're not sure.
So is it only the 2 tiers that exist right
There's
now?
actually a structure for 5 tiers.
Okay.
So right now, we're using just 2. Institution,
Right.
meaning campus,
Right.
and individual faculty. So we could have like others in between.
Right.
Now, the WI discussion could be at the campus level, right? So, or let's say all DC, or what are the various, DA, you know, we want these questions for any of those kinds of things. And that could be at the campus level, or it could be at the, well, however you're structured, division, department, subject, faculty.
I think the main point there is just, you know, as someone who's going to feel a lot of questions about the system, is that can we pivot, or can we
Yes.
change, and that type of thing.
Yes.
That's all.
And so that's a conversation that you would have as a campus,
Yeah.
and then to kind of inform Leanne and Adam so that they know what to put in. Because at all the other levels, they're the ones that have to input the
I
questions.
see. Yeah.
But did
The structure.
did I hear you say that right now there's only 2 levels?
That are being used for Leeward.
Oh, okay. So
And that was
there's gonna
decided
be-
after the long process and a lot of feedback, I think, right? Because people were like, "We just want control over this, and the only questions we'll ask are we're at the campus." Yeah, totally.
You said there are up to 5 tiers.
Yes, so campus, and I think we had, because we structured it for the most complex, which
Right.
was Manoa.
Right.
So we said campus, college, division, department, and faculty.
Okay. And how we define the in-between.
It's
is up to
totally
us.
up to the campus, but as long as Adam and Leanne, your current administrators, know, they can manage that.
Did you say, Christine, that your division is planning to have a set of questions for your
I
faculty?
think that's the current discussion. There's gonna be a set of questions that everybody in our division asks, like even if it's just 5 questions. And then the hope was that we could ask discipline-specific questions.
And then when your division makes that decision, then it would go to Leanne and Adam to
Just to
set that up,
systematize it.
to set up that tier for that
Yes.
division.
They'll say to our developers, we want this tier available.
So you could even, just quickly, Dylan and I were just shooting an idea back and forth. You could quickly even say, like, for DE courses, these questions get asked for DE
Right.
courses. Because it's kind of like the same as the WI that you were stating. You could do
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah. Or you could do for online DE courses, ask this set, whereas for cable DE courses, ask this, whatever.
Wow, we could really get specific then, huh?
But as it stands, we're restricted to just five tiers.
That's what we kind of built.
But the tiers are, I mean, because you could use one for divisions, but you could use one for diversification, like, in other words, it can be used for multiple, we just have to know what the code is.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But we're flexible.
That's good.
We're here to kind of support your use of it. Right. And so let's say, so then, once grades roll, then you can log in and you would see something like this. So let's say in this scenario, you're teaching 3 courses. It'll say, you know, for ES 340, 16 were enrolled, only 6 completed, 0 opted out, and you could push and you could see the results of that.
So if we had multiple sections, let's say there was another ES 340,
It'll show the CLB by CRN.
would it tabulate the data between both courses auto-magically for us, or
No.
do we still need to? Because
So,
that was a feature that you had an e-cafe
So,
several
here it is.
years ago that got removed, and doing the
Now
whole
it's
annual
back.
promotion. Okay, so that's good. Because that was kind of like a bah humbug thing with the 10-year promotion,
Yes.
where it's like, now we have to go
Do it ourselves.
Yeah, like you
So we
push
did
more work back onto
Two
us.
things for you so that you could actually look at it by each course. Darn, I should have done an example with the same course, multiple sections, so that you could look at it by section. But you could actually go and aggregate
I would do it on.
all of yours
Oh, wow.
and put into one. Part one. Part two is we were not really thinking about this in 2000, or maybe it was either 1990 something when we first went from cafe to e-cafe. That when we sent you the results, we said 5% did X, right? So we separated out so the percentages and the actual numbers are in two different cells so that you could do your own data aggregation. Because if you have a percentage and a number in the same cell, then you couldn't do anything with it. It was just a visual almost. So now you can aggregate, and you could actually, so
That's gonna be retro for all our 10 years before.
no, sorry.
That's okay.
But all that data will always be available to you so that when you want to go and do your manual calculations yourself, it's there. And we're never ever removing it so that you will have access for the length of your tenure, may it be long and successful at the university.
May I ask one question that
Yes.
came up before on the ownership? There was one statement that said the instructor does not own the data. This was one of the statements that was on our website, but I'm not sure. There was just
Well,
some questions.
so the answer, the reason why we have it is because it's sitting in this big jumbo database.
Yes, I mean, I didn't
And
see
so because if faculty own the data, they can come to us and say, remove all that from the database, and it'll be really difficult to do.
that. Oh, yeah.
And part of our concern was if we remove it and you ever want to come back and say we want it back, there is never a way that we can put it
Yeah.
back in.
So in that sense, so if someone says, well, what does that mean? It just means that the data is in a repository that we are not able to control the repository.
Correct.
But
You actually control, but
but you
faculty
control
will
them
always,
fine. Yeah.
and faculty will always control who gets to see that
Yes.
information. Just that the data resides in a university-owned server,
Yes, yeah, okay.
and we can't delete it. All right, so then when it gets to sharing, you can then download your results, you can, do whatever you want, and you could share your aggregate results with your department chair, your faculty chair. And when I say aggregate, what it means is when you share it, like when you look at your results, you can look at it by student, right? You can say, here's student number 1 and how they responded to all the different questions. But when it goes to your department chair, if you so desire to share it, it's here's the back to my 2020 surveys that were done, and here's the numbers and all the individual responses for, let's say there was comment section. All the comments for that gets lumped together and sent to the, so that it's not individual student responses, but it's really the aggregates.
And for the removal, not that I have ever, but is it just similar to eCafe and then
Yes,
you just
exactly.
go through the list?
Yes.
That's the one that's what people want.
Yes, and so we kept those things. And so many of the good things about eCafe we try to keep, and we try to improve things that we didn't know the first go around like 15 years ago. Oops, what happened here? Anyway, that's the end of that. So we do have, if you ever have questions, you're welcome to ask me, and I'm always happy to come back and talk to faculty senate, departments, whatever, about looking at questions, developing questions. We do have a CES help that is manned, so that if you send a question, it will go there. And Leanna and Adam folks have put together this really great website, also listed here, that you can go to, that has almost all the information anybody would ever want. And I do really, so I guess in conclusion, the reason why we are going in this direction was that, one, it was a push from the students that we want to have all our courses evaluated. Whether I'm paying, my parents are paying, federal grants are paying, I want a way for me to evaluate the courses. And so this was kind of the reason why we went this way. And the reason why we kind of structured it in the CES eCafe route was that otherwise I think students would have just created their own structure with no oversight maybe from administration and faculty, more importantly. And we thought then that becomes harder for you to use as part of your tenure promotion process if it was a student-run system. So we wanted to try to make sure that all of our needs were met, including students and our faculty. And this is CES 1.0. And as people in the computer world know, the tech world know, we'll have CES 1.1, 2.0, 3.0. I think with each iteration, we hope to improve it so that it meets your needs as faculty. Because, you know, I am true of the belief that, you know, faculty want to do better in their classes and want to, you know, get a sense from our students how we do. And so this is just another tool in your whole structure. Yes?
So I have a question about, you said that the main impetus was because this was kind of driven by students' request.
So I think it kind of came together at one point so that students were saying, hey, how come I fill out evaluations in some of my courses and some of them I don't? Why is it that, why isn't it done on all my courses? Part one. And then at the same time, that kind of came up. And on the administration side, their sense was, can we have a system that we can use, because our current structure of Scantrons and paper pencil is getting too labor prohibitive for us. So it just kind of came to a head. And so it was after multiple conversations between multiple groups that this is where it ended up.
And many years of using eCafe,
I was
which
just
is
gonna
a
say,
system that's been
It's
pretty
not
good.
as user-friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's,
So we're trying to make it better.
yeah.
So, and I do appreciate, and I do welcome your input, you know, in terms of how we can improve. Yes.
So, okay, so the sharing of the individual faculty, the course evaluations is based on the sharing that we're enabling, right?
Yes.
So what about at the higher level in terms of the data itself that's collected? You know, is it being disaggregated, and is that data at all?
Nobody sees it.
No one
Nobody
sees it.
gets
It's just the individual instructor that
Correct.
gets to see it.
And even if your campus decided everybody's evaluations are going to be shared, it's only shared, your evaluation is only shared up to your department chair. So that if Della is not your department chair, she would not see it.
So let me just follow up real quick on that one. Nobody is even aggregating all the data at any level without names or anything. There's no plan for that, at least currently, even though I can see plenty of value in that.
Yeah, so here's where, and that's where my personal opinion is, we have a system, and then you as a campus can decide what you might want to do with that. So for example, let's say we end up having department questions or division questions or leeward questions. You could say that, hey, once this accreditation is over, we might, as a faculty senate, decide that certain sets of questions we want to evaluate. Let's say you had 5 organization leeward questions, or 5 division questions, or 3 department questions. Let's have a plan to look at this aggregate data so that it might help us with our accreditation reports. If you guys decide that, then we could structure that. So it's only data, it's all columns and numbers, and so we can do whatever you direct us to do. But it's not in the system right now.
And no one's planning to do it
No.
unless we choose to.
Yes.
So,
Because we're saying, because we've committed, the only commitment the two commitments we as administration has made from the president down is all courses will get evaluated, and sharing only happens if decided between the faculty and their department chair. Period.
I mean, it's good. It's
Yes.
So in eCafe, an instructor could publish their own survey
Yes.
results if they wanted to. Does
Yes.
CES have that option
Correct.
too? Okay.
Yes.
And then for accelerated classes, is there a plan to have that change? Right now it's at the end of the semester.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't actually, eCafe also didn't work that way, just that no one knew. So eCafe, and CES, for this semester only, it will happen at the end, because we're actually using the same code base between eCafe and CES. So we were lazy. Oh, erase that.
You're efficient.
We were efficient, thank you very much. And so, but because we had to like shift from eCafe over to CES. But any course, so we actually have a structure so that it is based on the length of the course. So if a course is only 1 week or 5 weeks, the period when faculty can go in and select questions is earlier. And then the period when students respond to questions is earlier. And as soon as grades roll for the shorter week course, then the evaluation will get published to the faculty.
For the shorter courses, will faculty be notified? Because I don't think eCafe for part-term courses notified you. So will this notify faculty for part-term courses? Because I mean,
We're still trying to figure that out. So the reason why we're having a hard time with it is when we did a quick scan of the part of term courses, they were like I think like there were courses that started on the first day of class and ended in the third day of the semester, and so there's like a different part of term, like hundreds, right? So I think that's something that we'll be working with your administrators to figure out how can we do this. So many of you might have heard about the 5-week accelerated UH online courses. Those we intend to be able to, because we have set across the 10 campus system, all those courses start for this 5-week term. It starts on this date, ends on this date. Starts here, ends here, starts here, ends here. And when we can find patterns like that, then we could inform faculty.
even like 8-week courses.
Or 8-week summertime, whatever, So as long as there's a pattern then we could actually start figuring out the messaging to those populations.
So, and this is just a follow-up, and I think that's okay as long as campus and the instructor knows that they will be responsible for monitoring themselves, communicating with students in a timely manner, and all of those types of things. For example, if I finished an 8-week course, that course may not be evaluated A, at the same rate, or B, I finished an 8-week course. I have not sent any eCafe notification as of yet, right? For example.
Oh, okay. So in the future,
Yeah.
so not this fall, but spring 2019 will be the next. We want to structure it, build in so that so for, so this was the schedule for the traditional.
Yeah.
We'll be adding in the other ones.
Yeah.
And so as faculty, when you go in, you'll see when you log in, you'll notice that you'll have the ability to start your questions earlier. And then students will be emailed when, whatever this date will be for the 5-week course, the 8-week course, the 10-week course, then they will be emailed at the beginning of that time saying, dear Hay, your course is available for evaluation.
I suppose as the system is not necessarily doing anything with the data, the ensuring that all courses will be evaluated, or that kind of question is still a campus level discussion, right?
So, okay, so here's the thing. As we said, good point. All courses are evaluated. So spring 2019, we put a moratorium, so we're only doing part of term 1 for fall. But in the spring, if a student, let's say we did this 5-week course, and we weren't very careful about getting our questions ready, the students would be sent an email on whatever that date would be, maybe the 4th week of the course, saying your course is ready for evaluation. And it might only have that one.
Yes, yeah.
So
There will be the one,
yes,
at least starting in
Yes.
the spring.
correct.
Okay,
So from the student perspective, every course will get an evaluation. It might not be very robust when they log in, unfortunately.
cool. Yes.
So that's where the conversation has to occur.
Yeah.
Like, do we have special set of questions for these 5-week courses, and then we can populate them?
Yeah, and that's really our responsibility
Yes.
as a campus and an instructor,
Mhm.
which is just good to know
Yeah.
that it's our responsibility.
Good questions. So the intent is that every course, now we're I think right now we have it in our structure that every course longer than that is at least 1 week in length, because we didn't know how to do it for a course that only meets 1 day. Because then how would you?
Yeah, so you have those courses, there's outreach ones to graduate programs that meet as a conference, and you can get credit by going to this conference,
Yeah.
right? So it's this very short thing, yeah.
Other questions? These are really good questions. And it's really cold in here. Bad for camera work. Why is that person jiggling around so much?
At 97% renewable, we can just blast the AC all the way.
But as I said, I'm more than happy to come back as many times as you need me to come back, because this is really a system that was built to help you as faculty.
I thought you guys did an excellent job, and I know our campus reps did an excellent job when it came out, so thank you for that.
Good. And any suggestions for improving our faculty handbook, our website, whatever, we're open. We might not be able to do it right away.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Because this is now available to people who never used eCafe, maybe from the perspective of a new instructor, because right now the instructor manual is from the perspective of if you use eCafe.
Like the
before.
difference, yes.
Yeah. So I think really the instructions would be needed more for people new to.
So I have a question. I have a request. Might you want to help us create one? You know, and the hard thing is that we've been working with it for like 15 years now, and it's hard to kind of put on new user lens.
I can help. I
Okay.
need access though as an instructor.
Okay.
Because right now I don't have a course.
Okay.
And
We'll create it.
I'd be happy to help you on that.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we will attribute all your help back to you, as we are also great believers in Creative Commons, and we are. Anything else? Otherwise, I thank you for joining me during your lunch period, and as I said, let me know if there's other things that we need to help you with.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you.